Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We've had a look at a lot of the leak list. We've had a look at the air, the ground, the naval, and even the additions, which are also coming to aviation, in terms of new missiles and also new HMDs. There's one area that I haven't talked about though, which is also in this leak list, and it's one that we've discussed before, but there has been some new news about it. This is, of course, the infantry closed beta test, most likely still coming. Now, this is part of the update 2.53 leak list. This is the Christmas update. It's the last update of 2025. And what's kind of surprising is there's no submarines on it, and also there's no other things that Gaijin have talked about. But one thing that Gaijin has been incredibly silent about is this idea of the infantry idea, apart from, of course, that April Fool's video that they did earlier in the year. That got people talking, people hyped, and it looks like since then they've been adding stuff to the files and also moving stuff around, getting at least some more and more information about this kind of turning up. Also, at the same time, they've had Enlisted, which has been expanding, not as quickly as it used to, but they're still updating the game, at least a little bit this year, and then also Active Matter coming out into early access, where it'll be fully released next year. So overall, there's just a lot of stuff going on with FPSs with Gaijin, and when it comes to their flagship product, it wouldn't be a surprise if they were giving it a turn in it too. So with infantry being talked about, let's go through kind of like the history or what has happened over the last period of time. There was a bunch of leaks from Olivia attendees, a bunch of them over the last year or so, basically talking about the idea of infantry appearing and, adding a bunch of different stuff to the files, such as certain weapons, body armor, drones, like FPV drones, and then also other stuff such as, shoulder-mounted AA systems or machine guns and things like this. And we had a set of dev server updates where these leaks kept coming out, talking about the idea of all of this infantry stuff turning up, and just it became this massive thing that everybody was talking about. And since it was released from one of the leakers, it has been deemed to be confirmed that it is coming. Then we had the next area. The cease and desist supposedly has been sent to Olivia herself. And this pretty much means that Olivia made a post on Reddit and also in other areas saying, you know what, I'm done, I don't want to deal with this, goodbye. And it looks like the other leakers have taken up the mantle of talking about this stuff anyway, in form of the infantry closed beta test. So we'll have to see what goes on and what Gaijin is going to do about it. Probably nothing, but who knows? Maybe they're going to take some more steps to try and deal with some of these leakers who keep pretty much just throwing out information into the ether, which is getting people talking. So, with the infantry closed beta test most likely still coming, it will be interesting to see how that works. Are they going to actually implement it into the game modes that we have? Is it the fact that they haven't been able to make any new game modes for the major modes of War Thunder because they've been working on this and trying to make a separate mode for infantry, which I think would make the most sense when it comes to War Thunder? Will it have still the same system that War Thunder has in terms of spawning with spawn points, or will it be more Battlefield-esque? Well, how will it compete with stuff like Battlefield and also Call of Duty, which both have released large games this year? How is Active Matter doing in terms of the extraction shooter genre, especially with Tarkov turning up at the same time? There's a bunch of questions that at least ring around my head, and also just how are they going to make it work? War Thunder, at the end of the day, is a vehicle-centric game. The whole point of it is vehicles, and if you add infantry to that, the infantry is just going to get blasted. It's going to get absolutely annihilated, as we see in many other games which have third-person views. Even in Battlefield 6, they've had to massively hamper specific vehicles in unrealistic ways, such as the Gepard, massively limiting the amount of firepower it has in terms of its rounds, and also just in terms of its general damage. Now, War Thunder can't do that, because Gaijin sits in this area of realism, meaning that they have to make stuff as realistic as possible, or at least to the standards that they set. And it turns out an infantry member isn't exactly great against an MBT by themselves, or against a light tank with a massive autocannon that is just going to give you a headache every time it shoots at you. So for me, I think it's going to be needed to have its own mode, to have limited vehicles, if not no vehicles, because once again, Enlisted exists. And if you don't know how Enlisted works, Enlisted is an infantry game where you manage squads. So when you spawn in, you don't just spawn in as you spawn in as a 3-man squad, 5-man squad, 8-man squad, 9-man squad, and you are able to control any of these soldiers at one time. You're able to give them tactical, setups, like go build that over there, go wait over there, go attack this position, and you are able to quick switch between the different soldiers of the squad. So even if you lose one of the squad members, it doesn't really matter, because you just move on to the next one, and then you spawn in again with a full squad. But even in that game, vehicles are heavily restricted. They are in first-person mode. You also have sights, which are a lot more cumbersome than the third-person War Thunder, and also vehicles dominate that game and make it incredibly boring to play, because you just get mashed by vehicles over and over and over again. And they decided it was a great idea to add a lot of the big, heavier vehicles from War Thunder into Enlisted, like the Tiger II, like the IS-2, like all of these vehicles. And guess what? They're really good against infantry, and it's really obnoxious to play against. Well, if you add that to War Thunder, the same thing's going to happen again, where you're just going to get a bunch of people in vehicles and they're just going to kill all of the infantry guys. So as its own separate mode, if that's what they're going to be testing and that's what they're going to be forward with, I'm actually interested to see how they do it. With Active Matter, they've shown that they can make a realistic feeling FPS. I understand that Active Matter has a lot of the anomaly stuff in, but what I mean is the feel of the person that you play. They got the weight right, they got the stamina right, they got the sprint right, they got all of these factors right. In Enlisted, they were also able to get it right when you use specific perks. It was one of those areas which, they massively improved over the years in Enlisted, the actual mobility of the person. Before, it was very arcadey, you jumping around, bunny hopping all over the place, using perks to just be able to sprint and go unlimited sprint with the flask and just go nuts. Whereas nowadays, it feels like you have weight, it feels like you are more chunky, and it makes more sense. So hopefully, in the future, they can take the lessons learned from those two projects, and if they are going to bring infantry into War Thunder, implement it in a positive, realistic way. The problem that I have when looking at all of this stuff is I do not see how it works in my head, and it is fun for all parties. I can see it being fun for 5% or 10% of the parties, but definitely not all. So we'll see if it comes. But, once again, it is in another leak list, and it's another thing that's being talked about. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.